Hey, mama, I like the way you move. Gonna make you sweat. Gonna make you groove. All right. Looks like I'm back. Um, I think I'm gonna try to do this every day. Probably gonna fail at it, but this is my shot at it. Anyway, let's talk about some things. I don't have a general specific topic today, but let me just ramble on for about 12 minutes and see what comes of it. And if you like it, you can always hit that button. Blah blah blah. Yada yada yada. Anyway, I was looking at the ideas that I have for Lost Peaks and for Sugar and for Little Girl Lethal in general, and the overall arc of her story, in which, in the novelized version, spans three different volumes that kind of get to the point where she has her ascendancy to a bad place or a good place. You know, it's kind of hard to tell with her because she's kind of an amoral character in many ways. She has a core of goodness, but everything's been tarnished. And the world that surrounds her is pretty rough on people, and it's been really rough on her. It's been Lost Peaks takes its toll on its citizens, its denizens that live within the confines of the city and the nation. So let me talk a little bit about the nation of Arakan. Uh, Basically, the reason it's called Erica or Arakan, depending on who's talking about it in the book, is because in the world that they inhabit, the discovery of North America happened by Eric the Red, and he made a go of it, and the Vikings kind of stayed. Later on, the southern hemisphere was discovered by what would be their Catholic Church, which is called the Universal Church, and Columbus did make his way over and found his way to that place. And I haven't decided whether or not he landed in the jungles of Brazil or wherever, but he was the guy who found it. And strangely enough, instead of Spanish, that was um, the language that kind of dominated there, it was Italian and Latin, and then later on, there was a great migration from southern Europe over to what was called Columbiana, which is the southern South America of our world. North America was basically dominated by successive waves of northern Europeans, but was controlled at first by the Vikings uh, of that time. And then later on, the Vikings kind of melded with what is called Britannia or Albion, and depending on who's talking about it, and the Franks or the French, and the Normans kind of vied for power in North America, and finally, what we would consider the Anglosphere did win over, but a lot of the names remained. Um, and there are some Spanish influences that tried to come up through the Isthmus of Panama, but were pushed back to the Darien Gap, which is that kind of mountainous jungle area right there in the Isthmus that has never been crossed actually in our world. That's the reason we don't have a trans American highway that goes from one tip to the other. And this is kind of some of the history, the backstory, in which leads to some other points. The Roman Empire or the Roma Empire never really died out. It just kind of morphed into a different configuration within Europe. The same thing happened over in the Chinese areas. They had big empires that kind of just shifted and molded until finally, in the area that we are addressing, Sugar and her, the geopolitical state, there are five massive empires that just vie for power and are in a constant state of kind of detente at this point, that's held together by, in many ways, analogous today, by economic ties and mutual assured destruction. But there are some linchpins that hold it kind of together from really spiraling out of control. Although there are conflicts and small wars that they use as proxy wars to establish dominance. The Arakan Empire is the largest and the most powerful by far of any of the other empires, with the Sino-Russian Empire. Um, they're like a confederation that vie for probably the second, and then after that, the European Consortium, with Africa being given to what is their world's Islam, and then South Africa to their world's Catholics. The other major religions have a lot of sway in as in the Hindus, and the Buddhists have a lot of sway in the Sino-Russian area, and that extends to the Urals and the Caspian Sea, or at least their world. There's a lot of I'm kind of making a tangent or a non sequitur. There's a lot of geographical differences with this world than ours, and if I were to lay out the map that I've created, you would see the differences. But also, it's obviously, when you see it, it is a type or kind of in the same template as our world. Geographically, it looks pretty similar, but it is different. If you kind of look at the nitty gritty, there are changes. Why I talk about this is because it sets up all the problems that happen politically when sugar starts messing with the power structure that Lost Peaks kind of holds over the rest of the globe through their kind of tendrils of their influence, and things start to destabilize throughout all the empires as she goes on her little war against people that she takes exception to, and that she has a vendetta against. She is not above taking somebody else out when she encounters them that she has no connection to, if she finds them their aura is offensive, and their aura will tell her what kind of person that they are. I've talked before that she has damage, and it influences her psyche and her general sanity and lucidity at times. If she loses control, which she fights all the time to do so, she will become indiscriminate in her violence, and that, in those instances, people who are innocent or not as bad as the people she generally takes out will be killed. And she tries heartily not to lose control for that very reason, because she can cause a lot of damage to the people around her, and that can also affect those that she cares about. Most of those people can kind of bring her back from the brink, but there's always that danger that when the time comes, something really triggers her, she might do something that she can't ever get over, and it might destroy her. There are secrets about her life and about her world that will be revealed that kind of build her character and help her know who she is, but they're not things that are happy, and they will torture her. And now, a lot of writers have this saying, you got to kill your babies, or you torture your babies. Basically meaning that you have your protagonist, and a good protagonist you beat the living shit out of to make it a good story, so that when they overcome or not, then the tragedy, it makes it much more dramatic, and you have a lot of dynamics. You have a lot of peaks and valleys in their journey through the hero's journey, whatever that may be. Now, I've made Sugar quite overpowered to begin with. She's quite overpowered, and she just gets more and more and more. But that makes her as big a danger as anybody else who's her antagonist. Although her antagonists are, especially the main antagonist, is easily has as much influence and ability to cause suffering and basic abilities as she does. So you have to match your protagonist with an antagonist that will definitely give them a challenge and not something that they can easily overcome, either through strength of arms or mentality, or putting them in situations that will cause them to question everything around them. This is the type of person that I have crafted for her to have as a nemesis. And this person will also will gain strength as the saga goes along, and will match her step by step to give her a challenge to overcome or to be defeated by. And I've had people ask me, well, does it all come out good? Well, it depends on your definition of good. I want her character to cause questions, but I want it also to be a traditional hero's journey, that she goes from a homeostasis, a plateau of one place where she's fairly comfortable, at least in the life she knows, to extreme discomfort throughout her narrative. And then she moves to another homeostasis, another plateau that is either higher or lower. And I want that story to be told, and maybe have some questions about the path and the reasons why things happen. There's a lot of talk right now about like postmodernist and deconstructionism and how that has affected our society, being mixed in with things like Marxism and so forth, and how it's affected the narrative of all our stories today. And I want to address that in a positive way and maybe mix together true storytelling. We have a lot to work on, and I hope you guys stay with me to do it. Appreciate your time and your consideration. Bye-bye.